Blitz podcast. It's been a minute, but as always, or semi-less frequently, it's your host, Mr. Kane Schwartz, and I'm back in it with our homeboy, Mr. Mitchell McDonald. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Football season's finally kicking up. We got past that boring Hall of Fame game. Now we got some, I guess, a little more entertaining preseason games.
Yeah, dude.
And some
fantasy
fantasy starting to heat up.
Between Seahawks and the Bears. Bears put a shellacking on Seattle, which was fun. Not really fun to watch, but, you know. Are you watching the games right now? Because I don't actually have it on in the background.
I'm watching the New England and Panthers.
Did you
one.
see
They haven't fought yet,
what Max said to Brian
surprising.
Burns? He was like...
Yeah, suck my nuts or something.
Dude, he was like, hold
straight
my
up
nuts,
Baker
bitch.
on it, too.
And then it started a whole fucking fight. And Mac, like, you could tell from, like, his Pro Bowl, like, mic'd up moments, that's exactly what he's like on the field. And that's fucking awesome. Like, that's why he's the best quarterback out of that rookie class. It's because he's got the confidence of, like, a all-pro quarterback.
Well, after 1 year, the best
after
quarterback
one,
of that
after
class.
We'll put an asterisk against it. But yeah, you mentioned it. Football's kicking up. We got preseason games going on as we speak. But fantasy is really starting to roll. We just finished our 8-team Duck League draft, which is our biggest draft of the year, my biggest draft of the year for sure. We've had that league going. I mean, it's kind of seen different iterations, but I mean, it's basically... If you want to count when I ran it back in high school, it's like 10 years or something. So, but yeah, we had that. I was the only virtual participant, which kind of fucking sucked because I am in Kentucky. But yeah, I feel good about my team. List me your first 4 picks.
My first 4 picks, I went Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel,
Solid,
and
man.
Saquon,
Who's your
and
RB2?
Mike Evans.
Hey, nice.
Travis Etienne.
I've got, I went Jamar Chase with 6, which was, I knew that was going to rock some people's boats, but...
I do think we need to tell the listeners that we did do a pick swap.
So, yeah, we were coming, so... Aaron Jones, I know he doesn't fall, like, too far past that, like, 2-3 turn. Like, he, into the 3, he's getting drafted the beginning 3. So, like, but he was dropping more than, like, usual, and I knew that Levi wanted him, and I thought that you might want him, too, because I knew how high you were on him. So...
I did. I just wanted I wanted Mike Evans at the turn of the 3rd and 4th.
He's a value.
I knew I
He's
wasn't going to get him at my
at
spot.
that spot. But, yeah, I traded up.
Yeah.
Sure did rock my boat, says Chloe. Nice. Yeah. But yeah, we did that trade, and I moved up to get Aaron Jones. And then with that second pick, I think I went Kamara, and then I went Jones at the 3. And then in the 4th, I went Michael Pittman. And then I went Terry McLaurin.
Did.
I was going to draft Terry in that spot. Like, I was debating it, but I thought I was going to get clowned. And I knew that I could probably get him later. So I was like, I'll wait. So, yeah. But, I mean, now it's got me all horned up for fantasy football season. I'll say that. But I'm hyped. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. At the same time, while King was virtual, we set his camera up right in front of it, but the loser of our league had to eat Carolina Reaper wings for every pick he had. Well, we ended up just doing it for every pair of picks.
And he was in so much pain.
So,
he was in so much
simultaneous
pain,
ones would hurt. Oh my god, I thought he was going to be in tears, just throwing up. Going to need his stomach pumped or something, but he's a trooper. He didn't eat like the last 2 rounds he had.
Sam Coleman, we hope you're recovering easy, my friend. But, all right, without further ado, let's fucking dive into some football talk. And we've got some exciting, interesting stuff on the slate today. We're going to talk about our power rankings now that those are out in full on the Instagram. We came out with consensus rankings for all 32 NFL teams. You can see them above, but I'll go ahead and list off the top 10 At 10, we had the 49ers. At 9, we had the Broncos. Coming in at 8, we had the Ravens. At 7, we had the Bengals. KC, Kansas City, we had at number 6. Green Bay was at number 5. Rams were at number 4. Bucks were at number 3. Chargers at number 2. And the Bills at number 1. I feel like we're all feeling pretty good about how that turned out. But we also put together offensive ranks and defensive ranks. And then we made those consensus. But me and Mitch, we're going to compare some of our most separated offenses compared to our rankings. We'll do 3 of the offenses. Then we'll do 3 of the defenses that we saw the most difference on, in our opinions. And then we'll do consensus, which obviously there's going to be less of a drop-off for consensus because we were kind of just like all in unison on our ranks. I mean, they were pretty similar. But we do have some acute differences, so I'm looking forward to talking about it. But let's dive in. So, first thing we're going to talk about, and this was kind of the first polarizing thing that came out of this whole process when we started to put together these offensive ranks, and that is the Arizona Cardinals offense. So, Mitchell has the Cardinals, and also the 2 other members of the Blitz Pod also have them in similar standards. I think you might have them higher. Yeah.
I think they held him lower. I think I was the second highest on him behind you.
So
and there was quite
Mitchell,
a gap.
you had him you had the Cardinals offense at 13, and I had them coming in at the number 2 overall offense in the NFL this year. So I guess I'll go ahead and try to defend this. Yeah, I'll go ahead and try to defend this.
You got to defend yourself.
I don't know how much of a good job I'm going to do. But because looking back on this, I'd probably drop them down a little bit. But I do feel like they are at least top 10. At least for sure. Probably top 6. So here's my case, man. So you got Kyler Murray. Obviously, he's pissed this year too. Because of all the shit that's been going on in the offseason and people doubting him with his video games. And like, I mean, the stats don't lie though. Like I was just looking at it yesterday. Like when COD season comes out, Kyler does really tend to suck. But like, now, I think that's going to be less of the case. He just signed a big deal. He's all in on the football, I assume, for now. But then you look on the running back side. James Conner, they just signed him to a 3-year deal, I believe. I forget the money amount. I believe it was in the 50 millions range somewhere. But he led the league. No, did not lead the league in rushing touchdowns last year because Jonathan Taylor did. But he had the second most at 16, I believe, right?
Yes, I think he had 19 total, so he was just behind Eckler and Taylor, who tied for the most total touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. And the question with James Conner, like, I mean, the offensive production was absolutely fucking fantastic last year. We always knew that he was the ground and pound, he can rush in at the goal line kind of guy, but he became somewhat more of a receiving threat last year, which we hadn't really seen too much out of James Conner before. So I really like to see that. They brought in I would play devil's advocate the opposite way on James Conner real quick. The one concern that everybody brings up is the injuries. And yes, the Arizona Cardinals now do not have Chase Edmonds, and they're a little short in the depth of their backfield. So if James Conner goes down with an injury, but let's assume that he plays a whole healthy season and puts up, I mean, the production they put up last year is not going to maintain. But, I mean, they obviously... He's their franchise running back. I mean, they paid him the money to be their franchise running back. After coming in with 19 total touchdowns, I mean, that's a franchise guy. Why are you giving me that look? Just look at the stats.
He didn't even have 4 yards per carry. He had 3.7 yards per carry last year. It was all touchdowns. And a lot of it's because people are afraid Murray's going to run, so he just...
Fair enough.
Plunges right in.
We do have some James Conner debate coming up in a little bit later when we get into our fantasy preview. But I'll move on with the rest of the team. D-Hop obviously suspended for the beginning part of the season. But Hollywood Brown, dude, are we putting together how dominant this guy is going to be this year? I mean, linking up with his former NFL quarterback, or not former NFL quarterback, but his former quarterback in college that made him the prospect that was drafted by the Ravens. I mean, Kyler Murray made Hollywood Brown. and now you reunite him with Kyler. It's going to be fantastic. I mean, the chemistry's already there. Now, when you look on the trenches side, phew.
Yeah, that
I'll also mention Zach Ertz. I expect a good year out of Zach Ertz this year. I feel like he's been stuck in Philly with bad quarterback play. So I expect Zach Ertz. And he showed flashes last year of his old self. And then also Rondale Moore, I think, is a great candidate to break out this year. Apparently they're unleashing him, which I don't know what that means. Sounds like a bunch of malarkey to me. But he's a really talented guy. He's really fucking fast, and he's really talented, obviously. I'll say it twice to put extra emphasis on it. But highly touted prospect coming out of Purdue. And I think he's going to be a dog. And you've got him lining up next to Hollywood Brown, who's going to be the main target anyway. And then D-Hop, like, the loss of D-Hop is not that big of a deal. Like, you look at his production.
Maybe it'll rejuvenate them. Like, right when they usually start to fall off, he just comes back in, and it helps him get over the hump. Well, that's
the only thing that he can do at this point in his career now. Because, like, we saw last year, the old D-Hop is dead, dude. Like, 100 catch, 1,000-yard receiver D-Hop. Do you think we'll ever see that again? I think we're very far from that.
I think it's just a weird timing. Like, this might be his last true prime D-Hop year, and he's going to miss.
We didn't see prime D-Hop last year, though.
But it also could help him at the same time. He was lingering on that hamstring injury. He never got over that. It was rough to watch him play. He was a decoy most of the time when he was out there. I mean, you look at the start of the season, everybody had him probably like top 5 guaranteed fantasy receiver. Nobody was trading him because they were so high on him, and then boom, you get stuck with him with a bum hamstring.
One thing that could be a saving grace, like, I don't think he's going to ever come close. Like, stat line projection for DeAndre Hopkins in a full season, which he's not going to play this year, but if he were playing a full season this year, 70 catches, 800 yards. And that's optimistic.
I give him the just possession receiver benefit of the doubt. Give him in the 80s. And I think he could crack 1,000. Just because if you get that much volume and you're not getting to 1,000, they're giving you nothing routes. And I think it's just explosive enough of an offense for him to probably get back to it.
His goal line, his red zone efficiency, and his red zone threat is undeniable. That's why I'm mentioning the catches and the yards, because he's going to get double-digit touchdowns. Like, he might come back and get double-digit touchdowns because he's just that kind of a dog in the end zone. So I think those are all really good points to put Arizona possibly at 2, but definitely a lot higher than 13. But show me why the trenches are so bad, man.
I mean, you got Rodney Hudson on his last legs pretty much as the focal point. And he's been injury prone lately, so he's kind of an asterisk. And then you got DJ Humphries as your starting left tackle. I mean, he's okay. He's probably on par with Riley Reif, in my opinion, just like a guy you can throw in there. No, he's not going to be an absolute liability, but the rest of the offensive line. Yikes. That's why I'm not high on Connors, that offensive line, and that Hopkins is going to be out for 6 games. I did rank them higher than the other 2 guys, but it's mostly because I do really like that receiving core. I think they have a chance to do something special. And Kyler Murray, kind of a dark horse for MVP, in my opinion, because he's going to come in with a bunch of fire underneath of him after people calling him lazy, doesn't watch film pretty much. Call of Duty comes out, he's going to start sucking. But you give him Zach Ertz, Marquise Brown, and Rondale Moore for 6 games with Hopkins coming back. That is a good receiving core. And then you have Trey McBride, the rookie tight end, who was the highest touted tight end prospect in this last year's class. If he can just somewhat scratch the surface of what I think he's able to do, this offense is going to be massive receiving. I'm not big on the running game I like James Conner as a person.
That's never
It's
when you
just
start a
he's
sentence
kinda-
like that, it's not gonna
He
end.
doesn't flash in the run game.
I love him as a person.
He doesn't really flash in the run game for me. Like, he'll get you a few yards, but it's not explosive. His receiving is solid, but they have other
What do you think,
good
Eno
receiving backs
Benjamin?
as well.
Yeah.
Like Eno
I
Benjamin,
put Eno
could
Benjamin
come
in my
in,
top
he'll
50.
be fine. I definitely think, with kind of sneak peek towards the fantasy debate, there's no way Connor gets that many touchdowns. He might be able to get to his 4 yards per carry average, unlike last year, but there's no way he gets that many downs. Eventually, Kyler's going to have to start running them in himself or just passing in general. That offensive line was the only reason why I couldn't crack them in the top 10, because Kyler seems to magically get hurt every year at some point or another, and it's because he's getting thrown to the wolves because he's got nobodies in front of him. And then without Hopkins his first 6 games, I think it's going to be a little rough, having Rondale Moore try to step up into the definitive wide receiver 2 spot. He'll definitely improve,
Yeah,
but
no,
I
totally
don't think he's
understand
quite
that.
ready for it.
One thing we also got to mention, though, Cliff Kingsbury knows his shit, dude. Like, I mean, through 10 weeks last year, they were the most electric offense in the NFL, and it wasn't close. Correct?
They were one of the most predictable offenses, though. Once people realized, because I'm pretty sure it was AJ Green and D Hop were 90% of their routes were just outside on the same exact side, never doing anything. It was just the same thing every time. No real difference in formation on certain routes or anything. He just doesn't change his game plan, which, I mean, he comes up with a good game plan to start the year. It's just he doesn't adapt. And I feel like that's a large reason why they fall off every year, is because he's just so used to being able to dominate using one thing all the time in college.
Yeah.
And just didn't change it up. Well, he didn't even dominate that much in college, I guess. Same thing happened then. People adjusted
but
to him.
nevertheless, a good debate there, because we've seen the good sides of the Arizona offense and we've seen the bad sides. There's a lot of question marks. I mean, the most glaring being D-Hop, and then you've got whether or not James Conner can stay healthy this year, whether or not Rondale Moore, you mentioned it, can step into a wide receiver 2 role. Can he really live up to what he was drafted as, you know? So, what was he? He was a second-round pick. Yeah, I mean, that's an investment.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, he should be fucking good in the wide receiver 2 role. So, or else it's a wasted investment. So, all right, let's move on to our next offense on the slate, and that is the Buffalo Bills. So, you, much like our other podcasters on the Blitz, have the Bills at number 2 at the offensive ranks. And I have them sitting at number 10, which is the only reason they're not sitting at 2, and why they're sitting at 4 in the consensus offensive ranks. I'll go ahead and give my concerns real quick, because there's not a whole ton, because they're still top 10, you know, but I'll go ahead and give my concerns. So, first off, I mean, Josh Allen, obviously, he's going to be the best quarterback in the league this year. I mean, I think, as a community of football and analysts, I feel like, if we want to call ourselves into that community, a lot of people think that Josh Allen is going to be, no question, the best quarterback in fantasy and in the NFL this season. But look at his weapons, dude. Yeah, you got Stephon Diggs, all right, but I'm not a believer in Gabe Davis. I'm not. I did.
Didn't you just draft him?
And he fell, like, that's the classic case. Like, he fell too far, and I was like, all right, man. Like, fuck it. I'll just, yeah.
Oh, that was
I'll
me
just
with
snag
DK.
him up. But I'm not a fan of Gabe Davis, dude. He had one extremely record-setting fucking bonkers game. But I didn't know really who Gabe Davis was before that. Did you?
I knew it because he was vulturing touchdowns for people. He was kind of lost in the shuffle. They had 2 other good receivers ahead of him. Well, 3 other if you count Diggs too. I was talking about fighting for the second and third targets, but it's a loaded offense. It's hard for him to shine.
I mean, if his talent was really that good to be the wide receiver 2, he would have been wide receiver 2. And he
He had some
Yeah, I mean,
developing to do. He
are
was
we
kind of
convinced that like he's like at his full potential now? I don't think so. We haven't seen enough out of Gabe Davis, in my opinion. Like, dude, that game was fucking bonkers. But you know how many people will do that week 1 of this year? Well, like guys like not like Jamar Chase. Like fucking Sammy Watkins is probably gonna go for his classic 2-touchdown 100-yard performance. Yeah, exactly.
On week 1.
And are we putting like if it's a younger? I'm trying to think of a guy that is comparable to a Gabe Davis. Yeah,
Like Williams, I guess, but older. He's always prone for the big
like,
blowout.
I don't take a lot of stake in the week 1 like boom games. Like I don't really. I'm looking to trade off those guys like as quick as possible. And it feels like Gabe Davis, like that's what happened. Just like basically, if you take out the offseason a week earlier. It was a boom week. Like, okay, that's fucking great. But everybody does, and now we want to all of a sudden, people are putting him in the top 20 and like christening him as like the new wide receiver in fantasy. I'm sorry, dude. Like I don't believe in it. But I've got faith in Isaiah McKenzie. On the running back side, Devin Singletary will lose his job this year. He does not belong in the NFL as a running back. Or an NFL player. But yeah. James Cook is definitely going to take that job by week 6, hopefully. But yeah, I think the Devin Singletary show is over in Buffalo. But yeah, if James Cook steps up into that role, he's just a rookie. It's not like he's going to put up crazy production. Dawson Knox, I'm a fan, but the offensive line doesn't scream to me like that. The big reason why you put the Cardinals down was because of the trenches. And I don't see anything about the Buffalo Bills where it's like they don't have a really strong number 2 wide receiver. They don't really have a really strong running back. They've got the classic Josh Allen-Diggs combo, but like, I mean, there's other combos like that, and they're not it too. You know? So give me your explanation.
Yeah. I mean, the offensive line is the only reason why I didn't put them at 1. Because they're a bunch of serviceable guys. Like, all of these guys are starters in the NFL, but you're not elated to be starting them. And I'm pretty sure Spencer Brown is the backup at right tackle, but he could easily be starting. He's got a lot of potential. I like him. Him and Dawkins they could be a very solid duo at tackles for them. But Gabe Davis, I just like his potential. Like, I don't necessarily think he's going to be the next elite receiver or anything like that, but he kind of adds an element to this offense. He's a big, fast receiver, and Josh Allen has a big, strong arm. He's going to be able to take the top off of defenses the way that Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley didn't. I liked the duo of Gabe Davis and Jamison
going to be
Crowder
taking the top
a little
off
better.
Defenses? I think it's going to be more like guys like yeah.
I mean, he just did it to Kansas City. He has the potential to, is my biggest thing. I don't know if he'll be consistent doing it or anything like that. But I like this duo better than what they had with Beasley and Sanders, because Crowder, great slot receiver. He just finds a way to carve open space. And Davis is much more intimidating to guard than the likes of a 30-something-year-old Emmanuel Sanders.
There's been a lot of good talks about Isaiah McKenzie, too, coming out of camp. I mean, apparently he's like lightning in a bottle. So, to be completely honest with you,
Good gadget guy.
I mean, on the surface, I think that Isaiah McKenzie and Jamison Crowder have a much better chance of finishing wide receiver 2 as far as production goes in that offense than Gabe Davis.
I think Davis, I just like his athletic intangibles. I think that's what's driving me to have such an upside on him. Dawson Knox, solid tight end too. I mean, he's probably realistically around 10-ish in pure talent-wise, but he's in a good offense, so he looks better. And then the running backs, I mean, Singletary might not necessarily completely lose his job because Cook isn't exactly like a power back guy that you're going to be giving 20 carries a game to, but you want him on the field because this is a good passing offense. And now the linebackers have to pay attention to him out of the backfield. Yeah. Unlike they were doing. I mean,
James Cook has got to be a better in between the tackles runner than Devin Singletary, right? I mean, shit.
I'd hope that's the worst running back duo in the league.
Yeah, bro.
We've been
Like, this
calling
is the
for the
best.
big running back.
This
for
is a
few
team
years
set up
now.
for a Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. But what are we doing with Devin Singletary as your fucking running back, bro? Jesus Christ. That is bad. But what makes you so... I'm trying to think of teams. So, like, Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, for example. Like, what separates that kind of offense from the Bills? Like, because in my mind... Okay.
I think the Bills' offensive line is slightly better. Because they got ripped to shreds.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, you put them so high because what makes you so excited about this offense? Is it Allen and Diggs? Okay.
It's mostly Allen. Allen, the quarterback is usually... I feel like most of the teams in our top 5 were because of the quarterback. It has that much weight involved. And that's why I couldn't put Kyler in them more. Because they were more true to where I have him ranked as an actual quarterback. I pushed him a little behind because I was worried about Hopkins not playing in the offensive line. So that was just another knock for me. But if they had Hopkins the whole season, I probably would have put Arizona in the top 10. And then the Bills, they do have somewhat of a lackluster offensive line, but you can work with what they have. And it's going to be fresh faces on the offense receiving-wise. And in the backfield, I guess, too. I think it's just something they're going to be able to work out and perhaps take it a notch further than what they were able to.
And I mean, with a guy like Josh Allen, I think he's on pace to be MVP this year. I mean, that sounds... Mm-hmm. And I imagine
I think he's the front runner right now.
Year. And you could do so many things in an offense with Josh Allen. Like, you can do... Yeah, exactly.
You don't
like,
need
design runs with Josh Allen. Like, how many
Allen.
quarterbacks can you do that with? He's fucking massive, bro. Like, I'm not concerned about him getting injured like the likes of Kyler or Lamar. Because he's like... Yeah. He's the Empire State Building.
It's big.
Yeah.
He'll just run you over. He's not worried about getting run over.
Dude.
He's doing the run over.
Yeah, I love Josh Allen this year, but I'm not as big on the offense as you are. But agree to disagree with the rest of the Blitz family. Yeah, exactly.
We all ranked him too.
And a lot of these, I'm alone in my camp by myself. So, but all right, let's keep it rolling. And the last offense that we're gonna throw to some baits back and forth on is the Las Vegas Raiders. So, I had the Raiders coming in at 7, and Mitch, you had them coming in around the middle of the pack at 15. So, I'll go ahead and make my case. I just said it about Josh Allen. I think Derek Carr, fantasy quarterback, probably not top 5. I think he'd be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL this year. Like, just purely, like, leading his team to wins. I think now that he's got... I mean, what does Derek Carr have?
That O-line.
Yeah. What does Derek Carr has never had? I mean, he had Amari Cooper, but Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, dude. Like, it's such a wide margin. Like, he has not had a receiver...
He was this close to getting AB.
Yeah,
he had him for a few weeks of training camp.
Yeah, exactly. And then I don't know if he saw Derek Carr throw a ball or what, but I heard the rumor is he saw him throwing a ball and he was like, nope, that's not it. But I think this is a new Derek Carr, man. I think what we saw out of him last year, especially in the Chargers game at the end of the year, fucking impressive. That dude can lead a team, and I've said this before, like, there's only a handful of quarterbacks that can win a game by themselves in the league, and I think Derek Carr is one of those guys. He will put the team on his back and make plays that should not be made. And
he is a culture guy. He's good for that.
Yeah, 100%. A huge leader, too. Like, he's going to have this team cooking. He's going to have this offense popping off. You got the weapons. Devontae Adams, as I mentioned. Hunter Renfrow coming off an amazing breakout season. And then you've got Darren Waller, fucking boss, who didn't have that great of a season last year, but he was the center point of the offense the year before. And then you got Josh Jacobs. Me and you were both out on Josh Jacobs. I think I had very similar vibes about Josh Jacobs.
Stealing that job.
Oh yeah, me too. I get similar vibes. I think Josh Jacobs is more talented, But I get similar vibes about Josh Jacobs that I do Devin Singletary. I think his NFL career is over. Like,
he'll be a nice rotational piece somewhere. I don't think he's going to be an overwhelming starter.
yeah.
I mean, the guy was getting 30 carries in games last year and not even getting 90 yards. He is just so volume dependent, and Josh McDaniels is not about to give one running back that many looks if he brings anything similar to what he had in New England.
Yeah. And, I mean, for the most part, for a while, the Raiders depended on that ground and pound run game. And
because they had no receivers.
Right. Yeah. And now Josh Jacobs is not that guy. And it sucks because he was drafted as a first-round running back. That's an investment right there, dude. And kind of pooped out for him. But, yeah, I love this team. The trenches is where it gets a little shady, of course.
They have one good starter, and the rest of the guys should not be on the roster.
I will not claim to be very well-versed in offensive linemen. But from the names on here, I only recognize one. That's Alec Leatherwood, and it's because he's so fucking bad at his job. So
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
I know I wrote the X Factor for this one, and I put Alex Leatherwood / Nicholas Petit-Frere because they're going to be fighting for that right tackle spot, and they're going to suck in a good division where all three teams have good pass rushers on both ends. So they're going to have a bad matchup no matter what. The offensive line is what really tanked this for me because it's so bad that I would have had them probably around 10-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Colton Miller is a good offensive lineman. He is a good left tackle. He's probably top 10 in the league, in my opinion. But the rest of the guys should not be starters. And then Denzel Good retired. One of their actual solid offensive linemen retired right before the season starts. I like Carr. He's probably bouncing around 10-ish in my quarterback ranking, somewhere just inside or just outside of Waller. Honestly, I think a lot of Waller's hype is because he had to be wide receiver 1 for a while.
Yeah.
And he'll probably be
he's talented enough
fantasy.
To be a wide receiver 1, though. He's talented enough to be the top target in an offense. Any offense, in my opinion.
The offensive line worries me because what Adams requires is he needs time. His routes take a little bit of time. He'll be good fantasy and everything like that. It's just Carr's going to be under duress all season. Yeah. And I don't think the running game's going to be strong enough to open up real play action opportunities. Renfro probably going to get a lot of work again just because bad offensive line, slot guy, you just throw it to him quick.
And Devontae is going to get open quick, too.
He's good. Waller is my biggest concern with that offense, out of those big three. And then I see the potential because I like Carr. As much as it hurts me to say I like a Raiders player, I like Derek Carr. He is a nice guy. He's fiery, and he wills this team to wins they should not have.
With his play, though, it's not just because he's a leader and a great guy and all this shit. Dude, he's got a fucking cannon of an arm. He was I said, I think specifically back to that Chargers game where his arm was doing everything. He was going toe-to-toe with Justin Herbert, throw to throw.
I don't know about throw to throw. Yeah. They got a little luck. We were terrible we started really well against the run. And then after a ton of penalties, the defense got worn down. They just ran it down the dick trying to eat clock.
Yeah. I'm sorry I keep bringing this shit up, too.
I'm still mad about that BS pass interference call where it's 15 yards away from Zay Jones in the end zone, and then they get a 1-yard rushing touchdown before half. That still annoys me. Yeah. Nowhere near it.
Just air it out real quick. All right, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. And we got 3 defenses, just like we had 3 offensives on the slate for you. So let's dive into it. First off is the most polarizing one. Cardinals was mentioned first. Yeah, Cardinals was mentioned first on the offensive side. And then we were like, oh, shit. So I forget where the other guys had him. But you had the Steelers at 9. And I'm pretty sure the other fellas had them at least in single digits, right?
Jaden obviously had him the hot. Actually, no, they both had him at 4. They had him as top 5.
Jesus
We were the
Christ.
lowest ones on him.
Yeah. And you're sitting at 9. We got Tyler and Jaden sitting at 4. I've got them sitting at 24, dude. Now, I will make the statement right off the bat. Yeah, right off the bat. If I were to redo these right now, definitely not the case. Like, they're but I'm definitely the lowest on them out of all you guys, and they're hell no, not a top 5 defense. That is blasphemy, dude. Blasphemy.
I have them outside. Yeah, I can't quite put them in there.
No. Because let's go down this roster on the defensive side. Okay, Minka. Yeah, Minka's a dog. Like, just signed a new contract, too. Yeah, a little overrated. Apparently, he's doing really well in camp, though. Some people have been floating around Defensive Player of the Year, which I don't know if Minka could win that at this point in his career, but we shall see. And then Edmonds stinks ever since they drafted him, really. Then on the rest of the secondary, Levi Wallace. Raise your hand if you heard of that fella. Okay, all right.
Bills legend. He was solid.
And then it's
Akeel Witherspoon.
Yeah, Akeel Witherspoon. Anybody? Not me.
Former 49er.
Oh, okay.
Former Seahawk.
Okay, so
he's
journeyman.
He grades out fine in PFF. He's just not a flashy guy.
You know who else graded out really good in PFF? And the only reason I think of this is because it fucking haunts me. He's still on the team. Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson had one of the best years of PFF ever, and then comes out, and we signed him to a big deal, and he fucking stinks, man. Yeah, so signing.
Well, you know who graded horribly? Minka. He was in the 50s, I think.
The PFF defensive statistics are crazy. But, dude, that secondary is non-existent. Minka can't just run around and cover every single receiver. He's not even a fucking corner. So, what are you going to do there? That's really bad. Linebacker core. Devin Bush has not lived up to the hype. He's probably headed. They did not extend him, extend a 5th-year option for him. So, he's probably headed out of town after this year, which... I mean, that can't mean good things for his play this year. You know, he's probably pretty fucking discouraged. And then Miles Jack. I like the Miles Jack acquisition, but he's not your grandfather's linebacker. I don't know how to say that. Like, yeah, he's not your grandfather's linebacker. Like, he's mostly a pass coverage guy. Like, he's mostly a pass coverage guy. So, it's not that classic, like, Steeler defense that you're thinking. He's not...
They do need a better run defense.
If you're looking for
rough run defense.
A James Harrison, Lamar Woodley type of linebacker guy, this is not it. But yeah, I don't even know who the other guy is. Sutton?
Oh, Cam Sutton, slot corner.
Okay, gotcha.
He's pretty solid.
Yeah.
I mean, they have serviceable guys in the secondary. That was their goal. Their defensive line, that is their bread.
I'm not calling them serviceable. You can do that. You're not speaking for me when you say that, though.
I'll let Jaden complain in the comments later in our group text when he hears this.
Yeah. But okay, TJ Watt, he's a god. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he wins Defensive Player of the Year this coming year. Again. But TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi. Now, Larry Ogunjobi, I would categorize him as a serviceable player. Maybe slightly above serviceable.
Yeah.
Like,
he's kind of tailing away. I feel like he's getting passed around the AFC North like he's a piece of trash at this point.
But Ogunjobi's
Nobody wants
a bigger name than either Levi Wallace, Witherspoon, Sutton. Like, I've never heard of those guys. Like, Ogunjobi's more serviceable than the secondary is. I think he's a better acquisition than the guys that they got to replace the secondary. You disagree?
I think I do like Levi Wallace a little more than Ogunjobi. Personally, I like him a little more. He was the weak link of the Bills secondary, obviously, because it's Bills secondary. If you look at the names they had on that defense, someone had to be the weak link. But he's a solid starter in the NFL, I think, in terms of cornerback. But cornerback's kind of iffy. Depends on how much you're asked of. I think they're going to ask them to pretty much just do good enough because this is a good enough pass rush that they're not going to have to worry about locking down.
Yeah, but that's been the fucking case like the past 5 years. It's like their corners, like Joe Hayden's been running that bitch. Joe Hayden's been running that bitch for the last 5 years. He's not there anymore. He was getting so old, bro. Nobody noticed. That secondary sucked ass before, and it was the reason why, if anything happened on the defensive side, it was because of the secondary. It was because of their mistakes. And now you're like, okay, let's just go into the offseason, downgrade at the position that we've needed to upgrade at for 5 years. Everything else is pretty much, linebacker core needed some addressing, of course. But, everything else has been basically good to go, and they just haven't decided to address it. And if you don't, they're getting worse on the defensive side. They're not getting any better. And their defense wasn't all that last year. TJ Watt, bro. TJ Watt won Defensive Player of the Year. Yes, he did. And TJ Watt, if this were individual player ranking, TJ Watt is the best defensive player in the league. Sure, why not? But the Steelers team? Sorry, man. You go ahead and give your case.
They have probably a top 5 definitively defensive line. You got Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith, and TJ Watt. Highsmith is ascending. He was a steal for them in the draft. He's turning into a good pass rusher at this point. I just think they needed guys that are good enough in the secondary. Obviously, we're going to have our differences on the quarterback room. I think they are just good enough to manage. Not going to be any flashy play like massive pick sixes, lockdown corners, or anything like that. I don't think that is their forte at this point. They are all about stacking that defensive line and forcing the quarterback to not make good enough pinpoint precision passes so they don't need as good of corners. And Myles Jack is going to be pretty much the make or break of this defense. If he actually improves and can help in the run defense way more than what Devin Bush was ever doing, this is going to be a definitive top 10 defense. They might be able to push up the top 5, but I'm not that optimistic of it because the secondary is a little iffy in my mind.
Yeah, it's hard. 24, definitely a stretch, but top 5, in my opinion, is an even bigger stretch, which 2 of our friends at the Blitz have them in the top 5. So,
one of them had a little bit of a homer on it.
Yeah,
it was a bit of a homer pick.
100%. And I know TJ Watt won Defensive Player of the Year, and that's what you want to think of. The guy who's playing for TJ Watt plays for the Steelers. The Steelers defense must be pretty good because TJ Watt won Defensive Player of the Year. I think that's pretty naive. But I know that wasn't the thought process. I know that, but simplified, yes. Simplified. But, all right. Let's dive into our next defense, shall we? And we should enjoy this one because it is your very own LA Chargers. So, I have the Chargers sitting at the 8th best defense in the league. Still top 10. You have them sitting...
I'm glad we're consensus on top 10 at least.
Yeah, for sure. Not 24-9. Yeah. That's nice. But I have them sitting at 8, and then you have the defense for the Chargers sitting at number 2 overall. Go ahead and shoot your shot, man. Give it to me.
Reality, I mostly need 4 names, and then the rest are just money. You tell me Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on the same defense. Khalil Mack looking sharp as ever in camp. He cooked Tyron Smith the other day. J.C. Jackson, Derwin James. Derwin James, highest paid safety in the league now. Every penny of it was earned because he is not just safety. We throw him literally everywhere on that defense. But then you look at some of the other guys in the secondary. Nasir Adderley, I've had my issues with him. I know I've ranted about him to you guys, but he is a solid run defender. And then we drafted J.T. Woods to be the deep coverage guy because he can't tackle and Nas can. They are polar opposites. And then as the other corners, we have Bryce Callahan, Asante Samuel Jr., and Michael Davis, who actually has been playing really well so far. I think he had a pick off of Dak in practice the other day. Honestly, Asante and Michael Davis were not a bad starting duo last year. It's just they had the puzzle piece in. Asante had 2 concussions. Davis had a hamstring issue and COVID. The one big concern I have this year is not our interior defensive line anymore like it was last year. It's our linebackers. We're praying that Kenneth Murray can actually materialize again because we asked a much different role than what Anthony Lynn asked of. He has to actually be aware of what's going on in the field and keep a mental checklist, be aware of everybody else's roles, and he was lost in coverage sometimes. I mean, that pass interference he had in the last game, I think it was Josh Jacobs was going up for a pass. He's back to and just running into him. Just gave him a free 25 yards pretty much. And Drew Tranquill is probably our number one linebacker, which hurts to say because he is so mid at best, below average linebacker in the league. But I think our interior defensive line has improved a lot for the run game purposes. I'm a big fan of Sebastian Joseph Day. His year got cut short last year because he tore his pec, but he is a run stuffer and a half. He's not amazing in the pass rush, but there's going to be holes opening up with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. So he's bound to get a few in there.
Yeah.
I believe he was he's top 5 graded for run defense 2 years ago when he was playing fully healthy. Austin Johnson, we overpaid like crazy for him, but he's a good run stuffer as well. And then we just have mixed match pieces going in for pass rushing purposes behind that, like Morgan Fox. Hopefully Jerry Tillery's not on the team come week 1. Wasted $10 million, wasted first-round pick. But
Jeez.
I feel like this team does not really have any glaring weaknesses other than linebacker, which you can hide in today's NFL, and we have Derwin James, so he can play linebacker if needed.
Yeah. I'm not going to shit on that. I totally agree because I do have them in the top 10. I think this defense looks fucking awesome on paper, and I think they're going to be great this year, for sure. I will say that J.C. Jackson was overpaid so much. I mean, he wasn't really overpaid, like, for the stats.
We got him for his steal compared to the other corners after, like, re-signs and stuff.
For the stats that he put up, he deserved it, you know? But I don't think, like, J.C. Jackson, he a terp, man, all respect, but I do not think he's a shutdown corner. Like, I think that Asante Samuel Jr. is more likely going to be that shutdown guy than J.C. Jackson. Like, he got thrown the ball because receivers were getting open. I mean, it's the same fucking thing with Trayvon Diggs and every other dude who leads the league in interceptions. It's like, those guys fade off pretty quick. You know, like,
I will say, Jackson has graded, like, top 5 in man and zone both over the past 3 years. Like, he's able to do it. It's just, I think he's kind of got that mentality of, like, Marcus Peters, like, I'm going to make them want to throw this way while I'm paying attention to try to jump the route.
Mm-hmm.
Except he's a little bigger than Marcus Peters and can kind of make up for it a little better.
Yeah. I just don't think that he's, like, one of the premier, like...
I don't think he's an alpha.
No. Like,
no.
You think of alphas, like, in their, like, heyday, like, Gilly,
Ramsey,
Josh
Revis.
Norman. Yeah, like, guys like that. Like, Josh Norman, for a while, was a lockdown guy.
I think he is better than Norman. Norman had, like, 3 good years and then just...
J.C. Jackson has had, 3 good years now? And then we haven't...
Like 26 picks, too.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
Something up there.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be solid. I'm not expecting insane numbers. I'm expecting him to hold up enough.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be, as Asante Samuel Jr. gets better, I don't think he's going to be the go-to lockdown corner that you put on the best receiver and watch him go. But he's going to get his opportunities ball hawking on that side because the quarterback's going to be getting rid of it pretty fucking quick with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on his ass. I will say also, and I mentioned this before, Khalil Mack is not the same dude that he used to be. Like, he went to Chicago.
If he can stay healthy.
Yeah. If he could stay healthy.
He has shown so many flashes. He looks good. Like, he's fast. He's got his moves all about him. I'm optimistic for him. Just 30, he's 31 now. He's probably right at the edge of that prime, and it's going to fall off quick. I think did you watch his presser on the first day?
Mm-mm.
They asked him, how hungry are you?
No.
He said, you want to know how hungry I am? I'll show you. And just walks off stage.
Dang. Let's go, man.
Oh, my God. That got me going.
Yeah, dude. That's fucking sick. All right. Like, I mean, I love Khalil Mack. Like, he's a Greek god of a human being. But, like, I just, like, it. He's not the same Marlon Mack that Chicago traded for. You know, like, I think a lot of people are under this assumption that that's the case. And, like, that's not the case. You know, this is a passive. Like, Joey Bosa is better than Khalil Mack, and it's not close. Like, it's Joey Bosa's in the prime of his career. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league. And
I do think they're both, like, on the verge of that top 5, like, right in that conversation for pass rushers.
who do you think finishes with more sacks this year, Bosa or Mack? I think Bosa finishes
Mack.
with more sacks, and it's not close. Like,
If Mack plays the whole season, I'm going to give him the nod because he is a better athlete. He's going to get there quicker, and he's going to face a lot more single coverage or single blocking than he's used to.
yeah, true, very true.
I do like that we managed to get Kyle Van Noy. I know everybody says he can't exist outside of the Patriots, but he's our third edge rusher / linebacker in emergencies. I think he can come in and put up like 5-6 sacks. It's about all we need for a rotational guy.
Hell yeah, dude. I forgot about Van Noy. I mean, when you think about your linebacker core, that helps a lot, you know?
We got crap there.
Yeah, even if it's just like, hey man, this is what you're supposed to be doing on defense. Like, even if he's not out there playing, you know, they just need somebody to tell
He's
him
bringing wisdom to the locker room, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, for
Him
sure.
and Mac.
Yeah,
Mac's
Mac.
been like helping everybody with their pass rush moves.
Yeah, dude. That's why I'm confident
is-
on Bosa this year, because I think he's going to teach some shit to Bosa, and Bosa's going to, because, yeah, I think it's going to be special. I think he's going to be a little more like his brother now that Khalil Mack's there. But, all right, let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts defense. So, wasn't too much of discrepancy on this, but still fair enough. We had them 7 spots apart. I had them coming in at 6, and you had them coming in at 13 on the defensive ranks. And I'll go ahead and make my case. You look at this roster, dude. I mean, you got some dogs here. You just brought in Yannick Ngakoue, which was a huge acquisition. Kwity Paye, former first-round pick, off the other side of the edge. That's going to be awesome. Then you got DeForest Buckner, former 49er, one of the most intimidating presences in the NFL at the defensive tackle position. And then you look at the linebacker crew. Okereke, he had a great year last year. Darius Leonard, obviously the maniac. I mean, he's going to have... or it's not Darius Leonard, is it? What does he want to be called now?
Oh, Shaquille, I think. Shaquille Leonard.
Okay, Shaq Leonard. I like Shaq Leonard. Yeah. But Shaq Leonard's going to be a fucking dog this year, the maniac. I mean, he had a fantastic year last year, making highlight clips of him punching the ball out. Like, oh, dude, the ferocity that he comes in with that thing, dude. Like, imagine if he were to make contact with, like, some other party body. Like, what if he hits you?
He punches you in the face.
Yeah, like, what if he gets you in the fucking neck or something, dude? You're done. You're dead.
Oh,
It's such force. But, yeah.
Just knock you.
He's a Pro Bowler. Like, and then Kenny Moore in the slot. He was a Pro Bowler last year. Then you got Stephon Gilmore, who brings a lot of veteran experience. He kind of had a shitty year, finished the year in Carolina last year after he was traded. But I think the Colts is a lot better environment than Carolina is. A lot more tradition, a lot more tradition and respect on the defensive side. So, then they brought in Rodney McLeod. Who was that? Rodney McLeod?
Rodney
Yeah.
McLeod.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I really like this defense, dude. I mean, you go across the board. They've got dogs. Like, in the secondary, I feel confident about Gilly and Kenny Moore, you know? I feel good about Darius Leonard and Bobby Okereke in the linebacker core. And then DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, who's making steady strides, and then Yannick Ngakoue. Like, I mean, that's definitely a top 10 defense for me, personally. But what's your critique, man?
I have him just outside. The pass rush still kind of underwhelms me. Like, Ngakoue is better than what they've had, but he is a complete liability in run D. He does not care. He will let them blow by while he's rushing the passer. Kwity Paye, I expect to make some strides, but I don't see him as the number 1 pass rusher at this point. Just a notch below. And then the corners, I love Kenny Moore, and I love Blackman. I think Blackman's got a chance for comeback player of the year if he shows out the way I think he can. He can be one of the top safeties in the league. But Gilmore, I'm just worrying that he might be over the hill at this point. Him and Rodgers, the outside corners scare me. Kenny Moore, one of the top slot corners in the league. I have no doubts about him or Leonard in the middle of that field area blocking things down.
How about DeForest Buckner,
It's
man?
just, I love Buckner. He's a great player, but there's only unless you are Aaron Donald, an interior defensive lineman can only have so much effect.
Yeah.
And I wish I could put him higher. I just am it just lacks the star power where I think you need the star power. Like Shaquille Leonard, I'm going to say his full name, got to make a habit of this. He is probably the top linebacker in the league. But it's linebacker. You're the second line of defense. You're not a pass rusher. And you're covering pretty much the middle of the field. And they have glaring needs on the outsides, and it kind of worries me. Rodney McLeod, another guy over the hump in the secondary. They're just trying to hope they can establish something he used to have.
I'd love to know, though,
put them top 10.
How is the fucking Steelers defense better than this one, dude? Like, the secondary's clearly better.
Where it matters, you have T.J. Watt.
Yeah.
Alone.
Okay.
T.J. Watt alone. He's going to have more sacks than Ngakoue and Pay together.
Okay.
Combined. He might have more than their entire defensive line combined. Unless you're, like, sending in Leonard and Okereke and Kenny Moore on some, like, weird design blitzes.
Yeah, but, like...
And then Cam Hayward is a better
You're saying the weakness on the secondary.
Better interior defensive lineman than Buckner. And then you have Highsmith, who is going to slip through the cracks because of who else is around him.
But Highsmith, I think, is pretty comparable to guys like Ngakoue and Kwity Paye. Like, Ngakoue's better than fucking Highsmith.
I think he's on par with him at this point, honestly. Because Highsmith plays both elements. He's not quite as just pass rush driven. Okay. And honestly, I think the Steelers' outside corners might end up outplaying the Colts' outside corners. Kenny Moore is going to be better than Sutton, and he is going to make that cornerback room look a lot better. But I think Ahkello Witherspoon and why am I blanking on his name? Levi Wallace can outplay.
Who wouldn't blank on his name? Who would not blank on their names, bro? Who the fuck knows?
I would blank on Levi.
Yeah, there's one name that you should know pretty fucking good on the secondary on the Colts side, and it's Stephon Gilmore, bro. I'll take Stephon Gilmore.
32 now?
Yeah, I'll take him over fucking Levi Wallace, Witherspoon. I don't care if he's in a fucking wheelchair, bro. I'm cool with that.
I think they're going to look better because they're going to have better pass rush, throwing a little wilder passes towards them, so it could help them. I don't necessarily think they are more talented. I think they'll just play better.
Okay. All right.
Because Gilmore has the ceiling to be a lot better. It's just I am a little worried about age, but I think overall he's probably the most talented of those four.
Okay. Fair enough.
Even in his age.
All right, fair enough. Well, solid debate over the Colts defense there, and that wraps up the defensive segment. But right now we'll dive into some differences on the overall consensus rankings. We'll fly through those. And then we'll dive into a little bit of the fantasy rankings preview, where we'll bring you a couple of running backs, a couple of wide receivers that we have discrepancies on in our rankings of 10 or more, basically. Spots, but we also will bring you one sleeper candidate per person for the running back position and the wide receiver position. So in total, 4 solid sleeper candidates to grab in your drafts in the midst of fantasy football draft season. So let's dive in. Let's finish this out with the power rankings. So first, we talk about the Dallas Cowboys. So you have them coming in at 13 overall, and I have them coming in at 16 overall. So, Dak, dude, I'm not.
Not sold on him.
Yeah, I'm not.
Didn't you just draft him?
I picked him up after the draft.
You just drafted?
Yeah, I picked him up after the draft. I dropped Brian Robinson to pick him up, but
I think the defense is gonna hold its own. I don't see them as an elite team, but I see them having a lot of good pieces, which is why I kind of had them a little above average. I mean, they have one of the more solid quarterbacks in the league. They have more consistency there, so there's only so low they can actually go with the good quarterback.
Yeah, no, that's 100% fair. I think I've got a lot of faith in CeeDee Lamb stepping up into the number 1 this year. I wanted to draft him in the 8-man, but I knew I wasn't really in a spot to draft him as far as where I was picking. So that
he was one pick away from where he felt to when we traded.
Oh, yeah?
Caden got him that pick before. I wasn't going to trade with you if Lamb was there.
Yeah, that would have been damn. That would have sucked. But he's going to be the number one target there this year. Michael Gallup's also there, which would be nice. He'll be able to shine like I've wanted Michael Gallup to shine. So I just thought it'd be with another team, but yeah, go ahead and do it with Dallas too. But I think, like, dude, personally, I think the Commanders might have a better shot at winning the division than the Cowboys, dude. I know.
Ooh.
I know. That's a really...
Sam Howell quarterback or Carson Wentz?
Carson Wentz, dude. Carson fucking Wentz, man. And then maybe a little Sam Howell. But Carson Wentz for sure. I think, like... Okay, let me give my... I'll run down the Cowboys real quick. Zeke, I think, is dead. He looks so fat. And he looks so...
Yeah, but you have Tony Pollard.
Yeah, okay. Tony Pollard.
Doesn't worry me as much.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But, like, we haven't really seen Tony Pollard, like, absolutely unleashed before. We've seen the flashes, but, like, going to him as the...
You don't have to.
Yeah. Going to him as the prime running back,
You're
though...
paying Zeke money. You're running those legs out of gas until there's nothing left.
100%. They'll run Zeke into the ground this year. He'll just fucking suck. Like, he's gonna stink. And wide receivers, like, CeeDee Lamb will be great, but... As much as I hate to say it, like Michael Gallup is definitely a solid, solidified wide receiver too, but with Dak Prescott thrown to him both, like, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith. And like we said last year,
Solid too.
Yeah,
he was pretty solid. He was tight end number 3 or 4 last year.
Mm-hmm. I just don't think that this offense is going to be as electric as everybody thinks it is. Like, we saw it at times last year, especially in week 1. We were like, holy fuck, this Cowboys offense is going to be a dog this year. But I don't think that's the case. And then we talked about it all last year, the turnover-dependent defense. That's not going to hold up. Trayvon Diggs looked like... I saw that pass to Keenan.
He looks so...
Dude, that pass to Keenan.
Did you see former Commander DeAndre Carter cook the hell out of him, then he grabbed his jersey so he couldn't burn him over the top?
What? No, dude.
He burned him. Did a little move, went right by him, and then he grabbed him by the back of the jersey, and it looked like a 10-yard overthrow almost at that point because he had to slow up so much.
Yeah, jeez. But he got, did you see that play against Keenan, though? Where, like, Justin Herbert tossed it in, and then, like, so Trayvon last year, he was so used to, like, diving on the first cut and then, like, getting broke that this year it looks like he's trying to focus on, like, instead of watching the ball, watching the player, which is something that they, like, preach among cornerbacks, is watching the player's reaction. And
Keenan is smart enough to wait till the last second.
Trayvon was, like, sitting in there, like, in front of Keenan's face, like, right in front of the end zone, and then Keenan's just, like, puts his hands out real quick, catches it, and then taps him on the head. I was like, that is so mad Keenan. Disrespectful. But, yeah, I'm not in on the boys this year, dude. And we're basically, I mean, we both have them around middle of the pack. So,
yeah, I don't see them going too far or anything.
Yeah.
At best, they can win the division, but I think the Eagles will beat them.
All right. Well, we'll do a little Eagles talk after we talk about the San Francisco 49ers. And we got a lot of, feel like we got a lot of grief for this ranking. I feel like people were in the comments kind of arguing with us. Like,
oh, yeah.
49ers are a little high. Dude, this is a former Super Bowl going team. I mean, they looked fucking fantastic last year. And Trey Lance...
They got Debo back?
Yeah, Trey Lance is looking really good. Really good. And Brandon Ayuk, I think, is finally going to emerge this year. You know, like, he's been making good plays at training camp. I have a lot of faith in Elijah Mitchell. I don't know why he's going so low in fantasy drafts because he did have a fantastic year last year. I know it's because Kyle Shanahan, multiple running backs, yada, yada, yada. But, I mean...
And drafting Ty Davis-Price in the third, your first pick.
Jesus. But, yeah, I have faith in Elijah Mitchell, too, for sure. And then the defense. I mean, it's been undeniably one of the best defenses in the league for the past 5 years. I mean, that playoff game against Aaron Rodgers in his second MVP season, like second consecutive MVP, I thought nobody could stop.
Shut him down.
Absolutely fucking duct taped him to a chair and made him watch his own death, his own funeral. Like, that was... He ate up the MVP quarterback in one of the best offenses in the league. Like, that was such an impressive performance. At the very tail end of last year, dude. They made him the fucking NFC Championship, bro. With Jimmy G. with Jimmy G. Like, I cannot imagine.
And then almost went to the Super Bowl if it wasn't for Quisty Tart dropping an easy pick.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I forgot about that. But then you got Bosa, you got Fred Warner. Like, this team's going to be really good. I have him at 17, which is a little lower than the consensus ranks. You have him at 11. I think Trey Lance is going to be a dog this year. One thing I'll say is I don't think he's going to be...
Fantasy MVP?
No, I don't think he's going to be as much of a dog. Because what we saw...
For where he gets picked.
Maybe.
As opposed...
From what we saw out of him last year.
Like Josh Allen, where you have to get in the top 4 rounds, you can draft Trey Lance beyond 10.
True.
And get a lot of production.
Yeah, true. I will say, like, what we saw... And George Kittle said on the Pat McAfee show of the summer, like, we just needed to get the dude fucking reps. Like, he just needs to play in a game and make the mistakes in the game and then figure it out for himself. And because I was going to say, from the games that we saw last year, he wasn't that great. But, like, you could say the same thing about Jordan Love. Like, they need to just play more. Like, in-game situation, you know? So.
I mean, Lance was playing nobodies and then played one game in a COVID-shortened year because they could only get one game. It had been 2 years since he actually had reps and against nobodies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I also don't think Debo is going to have near the year that he had last year because Debo had...
He's still going to be the safety net, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But Debo had a precedent before this season. Like, he's still, like, early on in his career, I guess. What's it, year 4, year 5?
Going into year 4 now.
Yeah. So, like... But, I mean, I knew who he was before he had that season last year. Like, I drafted him. Like, knowing that, like, okay, this is Jimmy G's, like, kind of guy. But it's like, Debo had a really good season last year, but a lot of it was just because, like, not going 5 yards past the line of scrimmage and you're in open space. But I think they're going to run it a lot different this year because Jimmy G's not the quarterback. They're going to be tossing it downfield. And, like, I don't think Debo's that deep threat, dude. Like...
I do think they're still going to get him his run plays because they did put incentives into his contract for bonuses. So he's going to want to get every penny he can get, I think.
Yeah, no, that's 100% fair. And George Kittle, what do we think about him? I mean, I think he's on the up from last year.
I think he can compete for top tight end in the league just because he provides a blocking element Andrews and Kelsey don't.
Yeah, 100%. So, all right.
If he's healthy, which he never is.
Very true. But yeah, that rounds out the 49ers. So let's dive into the last team on our list, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. So, Mitch, you got them coming in at 12. I have them coming in at 18. So, what do you like about the Eagles this year, man? Why do you think the Eagles are the perennial Super Bowl favorite this year?
Perennial Super Bowl. They have the best offensive line in the league. There's no holes, and they are all good. They have a very good defensive line. Their pass rushers are okay, not amazing. But when you have Hargrave, you have Cox, and you have Jordan Davis in the middle, nobody's going to run for crap on you. And then managed to get Darius Slay and James Bradbury together.
Nakobe Dean's looking really good in camp too, good. On the linebacker side.
Yeah, he's showing out. They had a good draft. They hit on a lot of picks, and their running backs are iffy, but they can be iffy when you have a Jalen Hurts. And then combine, obviously, the A.J. Brown trade. So having him and Devonta Smith on the outside, it should make Jalen Hurts look a little better, you'd hope.
Yeah.
And I think they're the best team in the division. They don't really have a true weak spot, unless you want to say quarterback. But Hurts is probably an athletic version of Kirk Cousins, maybe a little less of a passer.
Yeah, like, I just don't... It comes down to me not thinking that Jalen Hurts is that guy. I don't think he's...
That's fair. I can understand tanking him for that.
Like, I think A.J. Brown is... obviously, I've made my love for A.J. Brown pretty fucking clear on this podcast. I think he's easily one of the best wide receivers in the league. But let me check my fantasy rankings, dude, because... I
might have to check mine too because I didn't put him very high.
I have him around like 18. Go ahead and check mine too because I don't have him up. But I had him around like 18, 17, right in the same conversation as DJ Moore because
you have 16 right behind DJ Moore.
Mm-hmm. What you got him?
And I have AJ. I have him at 12.
Okay,
so I'm a little higher.
I just
because I feel like create on his own.
And you think that you have more faith in Jalen Hurts, and I don't blame people that have faith in Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's definitely showed some good things, but I don't think he's that guy. He got more buff over the offseason, which I don't know what that does for the quarterback position. You're supposed to be lean and tossing it
Well, he's a runner.
Yeah, he's a runner, but you also got to throw the fucking ball,
Tyler,
dude.
And he's always hurt.
Well,
that's the issue with
the
him.
bigger muscles you have, dude, the more likely you're having hamstrings, fucking biceps, all these fucking muscle strains, right? I mean, I'm not the injury expert, but
I feel like it makes you a little less prone if you train it properly.
Fair.
That's why Lamar beefed up because, obviously everybody and their mother was saying he was going to be injury prone. He finally had an injury, so he's got to put that to bed before he gets his big contract that for some reason he's not going to negotiate during the season.
But it's not like Jalen Hurts had to add on more size to him. He was already a big fella at the quarterback position. So I don't think he's that guy. I mean, he should have done a lot more with Devontae Smith last year. What happened? He should have been a fucking dog last year, and he wasn't.
I feel like Brown is easier to throw to because you can literally just throw it in his area, and he's going to get it. And Devonta Smith, you have to have timing and rhythm with. That's why him and Mac were so good, because Smith is more of a pure route runner, and A.J. Brown is a pure freaking monster. Yeah. He just does what he wants.
Fair enough. But, I agree with you. I think I have him at 18, a little bit behind the boys, but I think that they have a better chance of winning the division than the Cowboys.
I had them a notch above the Cowboys, so I had 12 and 13 for them back-to-back. Wanted to make one emphasis of the Eagles being ahead of them.
And Sirianni, I love Sirianni now, too. I think Sirianni is that guy.
He's grown on me.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a weird hire at first. I thought they were just trying to please Wentz, but it's worked out for him.
And he seems like he really wants that club to win. He seems like he's in it with his players. His players really like it. They're bought in on the message.
What was his flowers analogy?
Huh?
He
he was when it grows, the roots, you can't see the roots growing. They're growing under, because he was trying to make exactly. He was trying to make the case that you can't see the progress going on, but there is progress. I was like, okay, that was just a nervous first time head coach at a press conference, fucking flailing his arms about, trying to explain some
trying to think of any metaphor on the spot.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, that just about does it for our power rankings, but let's do a little preview on some fantasy rankings, shall we? Be a good time.
Oh, yeah.
But so we have the next project that we're working on, and we've already basically finished. We just got to get it out on the Instagram, is the fantasy rankings. So we're going to put together our consensus fantasy rankings for each position group and have that out on the Instagram pretty soon. But we already have our rankings in, so I wanted to offer a little bit of a sneak peek on the live stream pod for anybody who's with it. So, like I said earlier, we're going to be throwing out a handful of players from the running back and wide receiver position groups that have notable differences in between our rankings. So, I might have him a player a lot higher than Mitch does. Mitch might have a player a lot higher than I do. So we're going to debate that, and then we're going to throw one sleeper candidate per position, per person at you. So 4 total sleepers in general. So let's go ahead and start. And we start with, for a while, the number 1 overall player in fantasy, and according to Mitch, still the number 1 player in fantasy, and that is Christian McCaffrey. So, dude, my main concerns are injury. So, can you talk me out of it?
Which is fair.
Can you talk me out? I mean, you're the injury expert.
What I would like to say is the Panthers did not do it in a flashy way, but they invested into their offensive line. They got Austin Corbett. They got, what was the center from Baltimore? I always forget his name. But they got a new center.
Bozeman?
They got Icky.
No.
Yeah, Bozeman. And they got Icky Kwanu. They are trying to revamp this offensive line, which was probably fighting for the worst in the league last year. And Christian McCaffrey is probably not going to be asked as much to do this year because they know the risk with him at this point. But every time he's in, he's a guaranteed 20 points. It's hard to not have him. You still have him at 4. If he's not in your top 5, then you just have no faith in his availability throughout the season. It's been a lot of like minor things like ankle sprains and hamstring pulled
That's what
hamstring.
concerns
It's
me.
not really like long-term stuff.
That's what concerns me though, because it's like the tiny shit. So it's like more like it seems like he has a lot of tiny shit that he's complaining about. And this is a guy who never missed practice, never
He
missed a
didn't miss a single
game.
practice until 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Not a game, not a
hmm
practice. Not in college, not in high school, nothing.
So that was the
I
big
think he's
argument on
just
Christian McCaffrey being one of one for a couple of years there.
I think they just need to lighten the workload a little and put a little more faith into people like Terrace Marshall or DJ Moore, maybe throwing in a few run plays with other people and not devoting everything to him. But I think the offensive line is going to help him a lot. And if he plays and he misses less than 5 games, he's running back one.
See, like
He just scores that
you
much.
mentioned the consistency.
I like Taylor,
Yeah.
but he's not that high to me.
And he doesn't.
Like his ceiling is
And
because he doesn't catch
right,
well.
I was about to say that JT does not catch the ball like CMC does, but I don't know, the floor of the guys that we're putting ahead of him, like JT, or I'm putting ahead of him, JT, Derrick Henry, and then which one am I forgetting? Eckler.
You had
Yep.
Eckler.
Mm-hmm. So those three guys,
I love that.
like their floor is so much higher than CMC. And it's like CMC ceiling is up there for sure, but it's like how much different is his ceiling in comparison to those other guys? And you're taking such a risk, like especially if you're drafting at 101, like you want a guy like you want to feel good about your investment, and it feels like I'm pushing in all my chips when I'm drafting a guy like CMC and I'm just praying it works. Like I'm more comfortable with okay, like CMC ceiling, sure, it's like the highest in the first round, like 100%. But like
highest than any.
Yeah, 100%. But like, is it really that different from guys like Henry, and guys like Eckler, where you don't have to take the risk with guys like that? So
Eckler, there's a little bit of risk. He's had some injury issues.
Mm-hmm.
He's a smaller guy, gets a lot of volume, just like McCaffrey.
Yeah.
But
Derrick Henry, I mean, he's got the injury bug now a little bit too.
Realizing.
What?
Yeah, well, one Jones fracture. That's not a repeat offender thing. It's just a matter of if he lost a step, having to go through rehab and stuff.
Right. I totally agree. But like also with the consistency thing, like, is he an easy 20 points? Because like the games that he did play, he put up big numbers, but it's like
over.
Yeah, but can we call that
when he's in, he's gonna get it.
Yeah, but can we call that consistent? Because he's not even like playing consistently. Like it's the first time he's hopping on the field in forever. He's fucking jacked up to play. Goes out and scores 25. That doesn't surprise me. Like,
I mean, I can go ahead and read through what he had last year in the games he played and didn't have to leave. And the year before was even crazier when he played because it was guaranteed 20. And one of the games he got hurt in was a 20. So his game log from last year on the Sleeper app, 27-24 hurt, comes in, gets like next to no reps against the Pats, has probably his worst game in 2 years, 13. 26-24 hurt against Miami.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty fucking consistent.
And then the year before was nuts too. Like he is guaranteed if you're doing full point PPR for 20. It was 28-24. Hurt in the middle of that Tampa Bay game, and then 37 when he came back, and then they shut him down for the year. That year was rough.
I'll say it, like, I'll agree. Okay, the consistency, easy 20, sure, but like, is it worth the risk? I don't think so, and I'm sticking with that point. Like, is it worth the risk over guys like Derrick Henry?
He is your league winner if you draft him. That's the thing now. Like if you get 15 games out of him, you've won your league as long as he does not miss the playoff games.
Exactly. And he plays all the games. Like maybe he doesn't maybe he's not out for the year this year, but maybe he's like missing games like off and on. Maybe they're trying to manage his workload a lot more, you know? And then also, who's the backup there?
Their backup, they still have
what's his name?
Running back.
It's good.
He was not good.
He was drafted though, like pretty high, like in the draft. Hold on.
I know I picked him up as his handcuff last year.
Wait.
I know I didn't rank him in there
Hubbard.
either.
Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba out of OK State, yeah.
So, he was bad, but, I think that Chuba Hubbard, after he saw that work last year, could see more work this year.
With a better offensive line.
I think...
Because he wasn't doing much yards per carry wise.
CMC was an easy 20 before they realized that, hey, maybe he shouldn't be playing like a maniac every single game and going out and getting these minor injuries. So
I still think he's going to be one of their top receivers. And if you line him up outside instead of the backfield, that could easily just lessen that chance of injury because he's going against corners rather than linebackers.
You think Baker's more... I also thought, Baker is a little less likely to dump than the quarterbacks that CMC played for before.
I think he threw it.
Because Kareem Hunt...
Not to Chubb, but to Hunt, he did okay, too.
No, that's fair.
Hey, Baker's a guy that he just throws it around. He doesn't necessarily have favorite targets unless they're the no-name guys that shouldn't be getting targets. That's just his thing. And that's why Odell and Jarvis Landry hated him.
Dude, Robbie Anderson, I can't believe Baker's on that fucking team. When he was no! At the, rumors. No. Dude, that.
He said he was just defending his quarterback, Sam, after he cusses him out up and down on the sidelines. Yeah, you love Sam Darnold,
exactly.
Sure.
Jeez, the fall from grace for Sam Darnold. I can't believe that, dude. Anyway, let's move on to our next running back that we got on the board to talk about. And we don't have to spend too long on this because we did talk about him before, but that is James Conner. He's not going to put up the borderline historic rushing touchdown production that he did last year. But they signed him as a franchise running back on a team that has really high hopes. So I think they're going to want to use him a lot. They paid him. They're going to use him a lot. A lot in the receive. And no more Chase Edmonds. He's going to be getting that receiving work more. And he looked really good in the receiving game. I mentioned that earlier. And he's still going to be the in-between-the-tackles guy, getting the rush. I think he finishes with an easy 10 touchdowns this year because it's not like that the Cardinals' offensive line was a juggernaut last year or anything. He still managed to put up those numbers.
Yeah. It's the same offensive line.
Exactly. Just Rodney Hudson.
Just with a few draft
and Rodney Hudson another year older. Another year past his prime. But, yeah, I'm all in on James Conner. But I've got him at RB11. You've got him at 19.
Yeah, I'll throw out a few of the names I have ahead of him. I have ETN, Breece Hall, the rookies, Javonte, Alvin Kamara, Chubb, Fournette, Dobbins, and barely Ezekiel Elliott, just because I think Zeke's going to get a lot of work, and they are going to feed him because their passing game isn't as good anymore. He had 15 rushing touchdowns last year. I think it was 18 total with the receiving mixed in. I just feel like they're going to throw in a few other running backs into the mix and maybe not force feed him as much because he wasn't necessarily effective on yards per carry, and they're going to want something more, just fresh legs because you can't give him – he's, I believe, 26 or 27. He's one of the older running backs now. For running backs, hard to say 26 or 27 is old in general, but I think they're going to want to mix in running backs, and I don't think he's going to get the production he had last year. I do think he has the upside of touchdowns because that is an explosive offense, and he's just going to be a touchdown-dependent guy week after week.
Yeah, and also, one last thing, they will be depending more on the run early on in the season without D-Hop, for sure. So, early season, I think James Conner, and maybe that's a good point you got. Maybe he puts up good numbers while D-Hop's out, and then you trade him out after D-Hop gets back.
Trade him to Cardinals fans like Lake Malkus. Actually, he has him. Lake will never let him go and get disappointed when he starts him.
But this is a guy with injury history, too. So, got to keep that in mind. But let's move on to our next fella. And this is a guy, I drafted him last year. Or no, I think I traded for him last year. And I was super high coming into the year. There were CMC rumors, CMC type production, and it was a shit show, folks. And that is Antonio Gibson, running back for the Washington Commanders. We were talking about it before the pod. Mitch, you meant to move him down a little farther in your rankings, but yeah. I don't think it would be as far as 33 though, because 33 is.
I'd have to look at my list I ranked him before that first preseason game with the fumble and Robinson starting to get a lot of looks. I would probably now put him a lot closer to yours. I'd probably put him 27-ish right before I put the Seahawks running backs back to back. I'd probably put him just above them because he's likely to be the starter still, I feel like, at the moment. He might go into it like that, and if he still disappoints, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and not put him outside the 30.
That's fair. I mean, we could just both shit on Antonio Gibson because we have him so similar. But dude, not good. Like, he was supposed to be a superstar last year. And he showed...
I was so worried because he was a receiver change-up. And when I watched that week 1 game, he couldn't catch. I could see why he wasn't a receiver.
Yeah. Let's go over all the reasons, man. I mean, he fumbles like crazy. He did it in the second play of the preseason game and then was taken out. Brian Robinson ran with the ones, and then Gibby came back in the fourth quarter to run with the backups. The backups. So, I mean, that's not a promising sign right there. Last year, we thought he was going to be a huge receiving threat. J.D. McKissick is better in the receiving game than Antonio Gibson is, and it's not really close. J.D.'s a pretty... Yeah, exactly. And he's not an in-between-the-tackles guy. He somewhat has injury history. Like, he had injuries last year that were floating around, and it was kind of inhibiting his play. Like, there was a time during the year where it was like, oh, the reason that Gibby isn't playing well is because he's injured, I don't...
Oh, what was it, like minor stress fractures? I think that was the
something
issue.
like that. But, dude, I don't think this guy is just built... I don't think he's built for it, bro. I don't. Like...
I mean, there's a reason why he was a receiver. He's not big enough to run between tackles.
He's not. Like, he is an electric player who can make plays in space, but put him on special teams, dude. Don't have him...
I think maybe, make him a motion guy. Like, if Curtis Samuel's still dealing with that nagging groin injury, throw him in, get him some jet sweeps, anything to get him going.
100%, dude. Like, and we've needed that ground and pound running back for a while now, and we were kind of hoping that Gibby was. And Brian Robinson is looking like that cat. And I've got a major case to make for Brian Robinson being a heck of a fantasy player this year, but I won't spoil it. I will say that Antonio Gibson, do not draft this fucker. He will be on the special teams. Like, he's not...
If you get kick return yards, maybe.
Maybe. But he's not. He's dead in the water for me, dude. He's not going to do shit this year. So, all right. Let's move on to our next... Oh, no. We dive into sleepers now. So, without further ado, we mentioned Gibby. My sleeper at the running back position is Brian Robinson Jr., the 3rd round pick out of Alabama this year. A lot of people want to point to the fact, like, oh, we've invested so much in Gibby. He was drafted as our running back. Like, he was drafted in the 3rd round. Brian Robinson was drafted in the 3rd round. We put the exact same investment in both of those players. So, Brian Robinson could easily come in and take this guy's job because they're putting equal investment into the both of them. So, he's RB43 for me, which... I need to see it before. But, I mean, he's running it in the preseason, and he was a fucking dog at Alabama, dude. I don't know why people don't want to... They don't want to put Brian Robinson in the conversation with guys like Kenneth Walker. Like, I mean, Kenneth Walker had hell of a season last year.
He was a Heisman candidate for Kenneth Walker.
100%. And usually those Alabama running backs are, like... in conversation, like, I mean, it's Najee, it's been Trent Richardson, it's been Derrick Henry. Like, these guys are big, like, it was Josh Jacobs. Like, these guys...
Mark Ingram.
Yeah, Mark Ingram. Like, these guys are, like, staples. And he became the starting running back at Alabama, obviously. And he played 5 years there. It's not like he transferred or anything. Like, he battled in the trenches with Alabama's, like... And at Alabama practices, like, you get better just playing. Like... like the opposite team, like that's why you want to go to a place like Alabama to improve yourself every day. But in his senior season, he put up 271 carries, 1,300 yards, and 14 tuds. That's the 9th most rushing yards amongst Power 5 backs last year, ahead of guys who, some of these guys on this list were drafted above him in the draft. Zamir White, Rashad White, who's more a receiving threat, Dameon Pierce, Hassan Haskins, Isaiah Spiller. James Cook also more receiving threat. But he finishes more rushing yards than all of those guys last year. He also had the second most carries among Power 5 backs last year behind Algier, who's now with the Falcons. And he had the 10th most carries in Alabama history all time combined, dude. Like, this guy's a fucking dog. And if you've seen a picture of him, this is a very large man. I'm pretty sure I looked up I think it's 6'1", 228. He looks 6'3", 250. Like, he's a monster. And we've needed a guy like that in Washington for a while. Gibby proved that he is not that guy. He is not a running back anymore. We have a receiving back. Now we have our ground and pound back. Fuck Antonio Gibson. Hop on the Brian Robinson train. He is legit. He's here to stay. People don't want to throw him in with the running back conversation of guys that were drafted this year. And also, one last thing. Rookie running backs are almost guaranteed to outperform their ADP. Because people die,
everybody shits on him
exactly.
For a reason. There's always one rookie running back that breaks out as like a top 5 guy.
100%. And I think Brian Robinson has a great chance to be the guy that breaks out. So, you want to rebut?
I do worry about him a little, though, because I don't think he's going to be the receiving back. He'll be a hell of a waiver wire snag, though. Like, he's going to be their goal line guy. No doubt.
I mean, the touchdown production alone, then, I like you said, I don't think he's going to be a threat in a receiving game. But a guy that you can pick off your waiver wire and will give you, possibly 10 touchdowns this year? Yeah. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Sign me up. A more Damian Harris type of production, I think, would be like Damian Harris of last year. I think that would be. But that was
I think he had 15 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And then I think he finished top 10 in fantasy, which I don't know if that's.
I don't even think he had 1,000 rushing yards. He said 15 touchdowns. Him and James Conner both.
Exactly, but
15 rushing touchdowns, not 1,000
yards. He's of that build, dude. He's not as big as Derrick Henry, but he is a giant motherfucker. So, all right, let's move on to your running back sleeper. Take it away, my guy.
I put Kenneth Gainwell because I think this is the year they finally give up on Miles Sanders in Philly. He has flashes of being good and just never scores. He's an okay receiving back, but Gainwell is a better receiving back. He just fits a faster paced offense, which I think they might be leaning towards now that they have legitimate receiving threats and can push downfield and not have to ground and pound as much as they were last year. I'm optimistic for him over Sanders by a lot, and I think it's only a matter of time because I'm pretty sure on draft night for our fantasy draft, he said, I'm pretty sure Sanders was taking reps with the third team, the Caden, when he took Sanders. I just think he's due to take over for them. I can't hear you there, Kane.
I was like, same thing happened with fucking Levi, though, when he drafted Gibby. I was like, dude, guy's getting reps with the, and that was before the preseason game where he fumbled the second play. He was getting reps with the third team before that. Jesus.
The other guy I did like, too, was Pierre Strong coming out of New England just because they are monster. I'm higher on Gainwell because I think he can be the true one, and Strong's more of a deep league option if they have a bunch of injuries. His path to being the one is a lot murkier than Gainwell's, and Gainwell can end up being a guy who can get you 4 catches a game and at least 20 yards receiving on top of whatever he did rushing. I think he can be a nice little addition if you're in need of a running back too.
Sweet. All right. I like that pick because I feel like they're going to dump it off a lot this year in Philly. So I like Kenny Gainwell. And Miles Sanders goes into the same conversation as guys like Josh Jacobs, Devin Singletary, their career, more like a Josh Jacobs.
Is he good enough to start?
Exactly.
That's the big question.
Exactly. So, all right, let's move on to the receivers. And the first receiver of debate is Allen Robinson, who had an absolutely shitter of a year last year, but he's in a brand new offense with a guy, you might have heard of him. His name's Matt Stafford. He kind of threw, interesting. Matt Stafford mentioned this the other day. He's thrown to the 2 receivers with the most receiving yards in a single season. The only 2 receivers over 2,000 yards. Or wait, no, over whatever, 1900, something like that. But
I think it was 2000 on the season because they made the playoffs with Calvin that year, I think, and he just cracked it in that first game.
But like the two best performances by a receiver of all time. So could mean good. And also, wide receiver 2 had production in this offense last year with Odell Beckham there. So.
And Woods before him.
Yes, indeed. I had him at wide receiver 29. And you have him at wide receiver 16. So, you're buying in on the Allen Robinson hype. I mean, he's got the talent, dude.
He does, and he's got the quarterback for the first time in his career. I mean, Justin Fields was supposed to be the quarterback, but he had a horrible offensive line, rookie quarterback that honestly was not quite ready for an offense passing scheme like the NFL has. So he was using his legs a lot more than he probably should have and held on to the ball forever. I just think it's Robinson's time to flourish again. He had a very bad year last year. Like, it wasn't that he was injured. He just stunk. It was rough to watch, and people were taking him first and second round and just getting shit on because they took him and just stunk it up. But he's going to a much better offense, much better quarterback, much better scheme in general. And it is, like you said, you pretty much put the icing on the cake for me. The wide receiver 2 role is very, very good in LA for the Rams. Because Woods, I believe, was a top 10 receiver before he went down. And then Odell walked in barely knowing the playbook and was spotty, but he had pretty good games mixed in there. And then in the playoffs, he was a lot better, obviously.
Yeah. Couple concerns. First off, and maybe you can help me ease my conscience on this, but Matthew Stafford and his throwing elbow, dude. Apparently, there's some he's been getting some shots in there to try to like stimulate it a little bit. Apparently, it's been something that he's been dealing with for a while, so like it's not like a surprise, but definitely cautious. That's why I was kind of staying away from Cooper Kupp at the price in the draft. You know, like I mean, he went before I drafted in the 18.
Yeah, I got him.
Yeah, but like, I mean, if I was picking in one of those top 5 picks, like I'd probably try to stay away from Cooper Kupp because of Matthew Stafford's injury. And also, I don't think that, I mean, they paid him like the wide receiver too, but there's been a lot of talk about them bringing in other people, like possibly bringing Odell back. And it's like, I don't think they're fully.
I don't think Odell plays until playoffs at best. He's got a long road.
But
he tore the exact same ACL.
But the fact that they're having those talks means that they are not fully convinced that Allen Robinson is their wide receiver too. You know, like.
Or they're not convinced in their running backs, and they think they're going to need a very volatile passing offense, which I don't think Van Jefferson can be a true 3. Like. Stafford and them will make him look decent, but a third option would be helpful.
I like Allen Robinson a lot better than last year, don't get me wrong, and you mentioned it, wide receiver too,
Well, actually, going into last year, you were pretty high on A-Rob. I feel like I remember that Fantasy Outlook episode. You and Jaden both had him very high up.
We did, but it's a new year, my friend, a year after he was one of the biggest disappointments in the history of fantasy football. And I don't think that that's too bad of an overstatement.
He might have been the biggest bust of all time because he didn't even. It wasn't even like injury where you're like, oh, that's why he didn't play well.
So with that puke vomit taste in my mouth, I still managed to put him in the top 30, which I'm proud of myself for. So this is also a guy. This is not prime A-Rob. He spent 4 years in Jacksonville, 3 years in Chicago. This is a little bit of a journeyman Allen Robinson now. So, it's not prime A-Rob.
I don't think Jaden's going to like this.
Yeah, I don't.
That's his wide receiver 1 on this team.
That dude was going in on the running backs. Jesus. But, all right.
Which is complete opposite of what he had.
I know. Yeah, he was supposed to be doing the 0 RB strategy and then fucking played us. But, all right. Let's move on to the next wide receiver to debate, and that is Mr. Rashad Bateman. So, you have him coming in at wide receiver 22, and I got him coming in at wide receiver 36, man. Let me justify it. I don't think that, to be completely honest, I don't think that a wide receiver or a receiving threat in Baltimore's offense outside of Mark Andrews is worthy to have on your team, in my opinion. Like, Rashad Bateman, from what we saw last year, not all that. Like, he was drafted with a lot of optimism, but didn't really live up to that. And Lamar, like, Mark Andrews is going to be a safe target, and Rashad Bateman is kind of built the same way. Like, obviously not like a tight end, but, like, he's a big, physical, tall receiver, possession, like, less of a deep threat, you know? Like, he was looking, Mark Andrews on the safe, Hollywood Brown on the deep route. Like, Hollywood could open the field for Mark Andrews to find nice spaces, but Rashad Bateman can't do that. He's not that guy. So, I see guys more like, I've been hearing James Prochet might have a...
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Prochet.
Yeah, but like guys like, and Duvernay, like, they have the speed, because guys with speed, like, even Willie Snead, like, guys with speed succeed in the Baltimore offense with Lamar. But we haven't, like, Sammy Watkins is, like, basically a much older version of Rashad Bateman. And he wasn't worth jack shit last year. So...
I wouldn't quite say Sammy is equal to
No,
Bateman.
like, I mean, well, back in, like, Sammy Watkins' prime, like, back in this...
His Buffalo days.
Back in his Buffalo days, he was better than Rashad Bateman. Like, as a prospect, at this point, 100%.
As a prospect, Watkins was huge, and then just he flopped so hard compared to it. I like Bateman. I mean, he's the only true definitive receiver. Andrews is a tight end, so he's their wide receiver one, if you want to put it bluntly like that. Someone has to get catches. I like Prochet. I don't think he's going to be a high volume guy in terms of fantasy, like maybe 50, 60 catches. I think Bateman's due for like 80 catches, probably 1,000 yards. Because in the few games he had with Lamar last year, they started to click. And he picked up at week 8 because he had that groin injury. And it kept him sidelined for so long. So he didn't have chemistry going in with him. But they kind of clicked for guys who were so fresh to each other at that point. I'm just optimistic that he can find it again with him. Because it started to look good right before Lamar went down. Like that Cleveland game, I think he had 8 catches and 100 yards, something like that with him. And then Lamar goes down, and he's stuck with Huntley, who only looks at Mark Andrews.
Mm-hmm. Can't blame him, though. Can't blame him. Dude's a big motherfucking target.
He's open every time.
Exactly. But I mean, you said some attractive things. Like, I mean, I could buy into it, but I'm not. I feel good about my wide receiver 36 ranking, but I mean, this is...
Who did you have ranked around him? Just so I can get an idea of the tier you have.
Pull it up real quick.
Actually, I can probably look it up quick. I think I have the screenshot up of mine.
Yeah, go ahead and look at it. I think I've got him. Yeah.
Okay, so he was between Thielen and Ayuk for you.
Bro, like,
who were pretty good receivers.
Read
honestly.
the 5 guys in that territory.
Okay, starting at 30, you got Renfro, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Allen Lazard, Christian Kirk, Thielen, Bateman, and then Ayuk, Robert Woods, Claypool.
Bro, like, I think that's right about the right range.
And then for dude. Mine, I have him between Sutton and DK Metcalf. So I kind of did tiering almost, like guys I feel like that could have a high ceiling, but there's risk attached.
That's a legitimate wide receiver 1 though. Like, it's wide receiver 1 territory. If high quality wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
So,
with boom potential. Especially if you're in like a 12-man league, they might have to be your wide receiver 1.
And I've got him more like wide receiver 3 flex. So, but I could buy into it, but I won't. All right.
It could be a nice snag because he does still go late.
He does. All right. Let's dive into some discrepancies on your boy, Mike Williams, LA's own, LA's finest. Born and raised. Well, I don't know born and raised, but he was drafted there and hasn't left. I've got him at wide receiver 19. You've got him at wide receiver 27. Go ahead and shoot off. I mean, you got the expertise, man. I want to hear what you got.
I am a man of consistency in fantasy. And much to like you, I do worry about injuries, even though I still put McCaffrey at 1. And Mike Williams has not had like a fully healthy season. He didn't really miss games last year, many, but he was kind of nagging with a core injury for a while there, and that's when he had his plummet. But it's hard for me to trust him on a week by week basis, knowing that amazing start he had last year and how much he cooled off and then randomly popped back up. It's just hard for me to rank him a lot higher above those upper echelon guys that are probably tail end of wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I had him right in between the likes of Michael Thomas and Chris Godwin. So I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's that next tier up. I think he's a guy you can play at flex if you need to, but if he's my wide receiver 2, I'm not exactly comfortable going into that with him.
Fair. And I mean, I'm quick to forget the injury, like with a guy like Eckler. I'm quick to forget the injury history once a guy plays a full year. Like everybody's quick to do that in fantasy, especially. But you do have to take into consideration injury when you're talking about guys like Mike Williams. But he's still pretty early on in his career. Like, what's it, year 4 now?
6. He just finished his 5th year, and we re-signed him.
Yeah.
So he's 26, 27.
Right. Yeah, right in his prime.
It is his prime.
And Justin Herbert, that motherfucker's only going to get 100 times better this year than he was last year because he just keeps doubling and doubling his talent, and eventually he's just going to rule the entire world. But he's a dog. He's only getting better. Mike Williams is in the prime of his career right now. And Keenan, hot take, doesn't go for 100 catches this year for the first time in 5 years.
I'm fine with 90 and 1,000. I do think there is an issue with potential targets being stolen by Josh Palmer, because Josh Palmer, he is gone right under Keenan Allen's wing. He specifically said he's only been watching Keenan Allen tape, and he was not a great route runner last year. And now he's kind of got more than Mike Williams' build, speed, and physicality, and he can run routes now. Mm-hmm. He's turned it around. I'm optimistic. I don't think he's going to be getting serious amounts of reps because he's still so young and a little raw still. But I think it's going to be noticeable enough that it could hurt both in the end.
I mean, personally, I'm comfortable. Comfortable is a strong word. I'm okay with Mike Williams as my wide receiver 2.
I was about to say, it's hard to be comfortable with Mike Williams after getting years of stinker boom, stinker boom, stinker boom.
But new Tyler Lockett? Better than Tyler Lockett? I mean, dude, I'm happy if we're taking this into the consideration of, if we're thinking about a Tyler Lockett type of guy, dude, I'm drafting Mike Williams, and I'm happy with that. I know if you go into it knowing that, okay, this guy's going to be very streaky, but he's going to fucking drop, 40, 50 some games.
You are going to have the boom.
And they're going to be the biggest booms in fantasy football, just like they were last year. I thought Mike Williams was
he put the team on his back in Week 18. Keenan got locked down by Casey Hayward because obviously they know each other too well and he knows his tendencies. And then Mike he was playing shit corners and just dominated.
I think Keenan's going to be locked up a little bit more this year than he has in the past. So that's going to open up some opportunities for guys like Mike Williams and Josh Palmer. I'm a huge Josh Palmer guy too. I've heard a lot of good things about him. What college did he go to again? Tennessee?
Tennessee, yeah. Him and Velus Jones Jr., dynamic duo there.
Fuck Tennessee, by the way. Go Cats. But yeah, I like Mike Williams a lot this year. I do understand, especially as a Chargers fan, you see it every fucking game, so I trust what you're saying. But I've got more confidence. So, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's dive into Allen Lazard, which we have some decent discrepancy on. You've got him at wide receiver 49. The one slot of it, he just made it into your top 50. Barely. But Aaron Rodgers' number one target, possibly, it barely made the top 50.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I put him at wide receiver 33, and we talked about this on one of the last pods. Even if we're just taking shots in the dark at guys who could be the number one target for Aaron Rodgers this year, bro, I'm fucking closing my eyes and I'm tossing those darts, dude. Like, I'm totally cool with taking flyers on guys like Alan Lazard. Like, I would much rather take a guy like Alan Lazard than some of the guys going in that range, because of his, like, an Adam Thielen.
He's got upside.
Like an Adam Thielen or like a Robert Woods. Like, those guys, like, it's going to be a solid floor. But this could be Aaron Rodgers, like, wide receiver 1 this year who goes for double-digit touchdowns and 1,000 yards. Like, and 100 catches. Like, it could be. Like, he's made bad receivers. Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys that makes bad receivers into good receivers. So, I don't think it necessarily matters too much, the talent. And we have seen flashes out of Lazard. Like, it's not like he's a garbage bag, Like, he's
had moments.
He's had moments. And Aaron Rodgers can create more of those moments. So, like I said, my main point is, like, that's why I have Aaron Jones so high. Because, like, he's going to be the number 1 target in the offense, in my opinion. Like, we saw it a lot last year of whole games of him just dumping it off to Aaron Jones. And he'll be able to do that, a lot of that this year, but it won't be all the time. So, there's got to be a receiver that steps up. It's not going to be Bobby Tonyan. It's not going to be tight end Bobby Tonyan. It's not going to be Sammy Watkins. Like, Alan Lazard is the most clear-cut.
Travis Fulgham.
Yeah, Travis Fulgham. Like, Alan Lazard is the most clear-cut, like, obvious choice to be number 1 in the receiving core. So, if I'm taking a flyer on Aaron Rodgers' number 1 target, sign me up, bro. Sign me up. So, upside's there.
I see the boom in him, but my worry is he is the wide receiver 1 for them. But in reality, he is the equivalent to a wide receiver 3 or 4 going against cornerback 1. And I don't think his route running and physicality is quite good enough to just beat them every time. And I think the guys like Romeo Doubs, even Watkins, Fulgham maybe, just Christian Watson, even on some deep balls, I think the other guys will shine through because nobody thinks they're going to be good. So they're going to have DB1 on Lazard, and he's probably going to get locked down. I think it's going to be a lot heavier of a run scheme too, because you have a 2-headed monster in Jones and Dillon, and both are actually good receiving backs. And I think it's going to be a lot more backfield-centric, and Lazard's going to end up having to get locked down because somebody has to be labeled as wide receiver 1 on this team, and I don't think he has the talent to succeed individually at that. He had solid games, but I guess he had to play as wide receiver 1 when Adams went down 2 years ago, but he just doesn't strike me as anybody that is going to be consistent, even with the upside.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that he's like I don't think I would even put the word talented on Alan Lazard. Like, and that's pretty sad.
He's a body with a pulse.
But like
that's pretty
the most eligible body with the most eligible pulse to be wide receiver 1 for Aaron Rodgers, I'll take it. But all right, let's dive into one of our last comparison rankings, and that is Jerry Jeudy, almost 20 spots of difference, and you're basically on an island about this. And I really am excited to hear your case for Jerry Jeudy because I can tell you kind of been holding your take and you're ready to explain it. So I got him at wide receiver 25. You got him barely cracking top 50 at wide receiver 44.
Yeah, he's wedged in between Chase Claypool and Chris Olave for me, so that's pretty eye-opening. What I don't like about Jerry Jeudy is, well, one, the arrest. He didn't get the early work with Russ that the other guys did, because the other guys went right into building chemistry with him. Even like KJ Hamler and Sutton were both working with him. But Jeudy I think he's likely to be more of their slot receiver. And Russ, in his Seattle days, I don't know if it was scheming or not, does not like the middle of the field. He has a tendency to just kill tight ends. Jimmy Graham's career went in the toilet because of him. And then the likes of DK Metcalf and the deep ball on Tyler Lockett seem to thrive. And I think KJ Hamler is another sneaky guy. I didn't make him my sleeper because he's more Lockett-esque. He can get that deep ball, and Russ just mostly looks for the deep ball. And then guys like Sutton and him have been compared between each other. I just think Sutton fits the mold of the receivers he looks for as those X guys on the outside. And that's why I think he'll get the nudge on that. Judy, I wanted to put him low because he has a high ADP, and I don't think he's worth that. I like the upside of the guys around him. He has a huge upside too. It's just it worries me. He's more of the route runner. He's more of the slot guy, and that is not. I don't know if Hackett's going to force Russ to change his ways and look towards the middle of the field rather than the outsides, but I'm just not optimistic for him actually being successful in this system. I like Judy as a player, great route runner, all that. Just not the quarterback he needed to come to Denver for him to thrive.
Only reason I mean, you got a lot of good points for sure. Only reason I got him at 25 is because he does have the chance to be the number one for Russell Wilson. So you like that upside a lot, obviously, but I mean, you didn't. I definitely believe that Courtland Sutton is the guy over Jerry Jeudy. He has proven it. He's made a Pro Bowl. He's got that 1,000-yard receiving season with 9 touchdowns, I believe, almost cracking that double-digit touchdown mark. With who was at QB that year? Teddy Bridgewater? No, yeah.
I think it was the year. That might have been Teddy's first year. He was good. I was high on Sutton that year. I traded for him. I traded Calvin Ridley for him in Caden day after, and Sutton tears his ACL week 2, and then Ridley goes on for 1,400 yards.
Yeah.
That hurt.
Yeah, that stinks. I was high on Courtland Sutton last year too, and but yeah, I mean, you gotta take the chance with Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion. But also, I mean, playing in your favor. Can Russell Wilson still support 2 fantasy relevant wide receivers? Who knows? I mean, from what we saw last year,
with that
probably not.
2-headed backfield too.
With Javonte Williams, who's going to be catching a lot of passes out of the backfield, for sure.
Both can catch passes.
And and KJ Hamler, he's second-round pick. Investment. Like, I mean, that's
coming off an ACL tear. That's the only reason why we're forgetting about him.
Not, like, round 1 to 2, like, I know first rounders have, like, the glitz and glamour, but it's, like, basically the same type of investment, you know? So, KJ Hamler has basically just as much likelihood to be the number 1 in this offense as Jerry Jeudy. So, I'm definitely not as high on Jerry Jeudy as a lot of other people. But 44, that's
way higher than me.
Yeah, a little higher than you, but hey, man, I rock with the mindset. All right.
I had to have one eye popping.
For sure, especially based on ADP. You know, like my Steelers defense.
Yeah,
that's eye popping for sure. But
we're a podcast. We need to draw interaction.
They're called the young folk call them hot takes these days. Tends to get the views apparently. But all right, let's dive into some of our sleeper candidates at the wide receiver position. And Mitch, you mentioned him before. You got Sky Moore coming in as your sleeper. Take it away.
This is my guy this year. Someone has to replace Tyreek Hill, and he's not Tyreek Hill. But I think he is better than Mecole Hardman and the other options they have. Juju is probably going to be their slot receiver. Give that to him. But I think Sky Moore, they're going to find ways to get him involved. I've loved what I've seen from camp in him. He's got pretty much everything in his route tree. He can run every route, does it smoothly. He's athletic. He's been taking jet sweeps and stuff like that. They're going to find ways to get this man involved, and he has shown out so far. I think he could easily end up being wide receiver 1 for this team this year. I mean, Kelsey's probably going to have the most targets, catches, and all of that, but in terms of true receivers, I think Moore is going to be ahead of the others.
Yeah, big year ahead possibly for Sky Moore. I mean, who else is there? I have more faith in Sky Moore than MBS for sure.
And Mecole, because Mecole can't. He couldn't catch a cold in Alaska in the middle of the winter.
He's dead. He's been fantasy dead for a minute, dude. I picked him up, I think, last. It's like, he's so fucking fast, dude. So fucking fast.
You get that random 2-touchdown game out of him because he just takes the top off of a bad secondary.
Speaking of Chiefs wide receivers that kind of got lost in the fold, Demarcus Robinson signed a contract with the Ravens today. So, what does that tell?
Another viable option.
Yeah, and also kind of tells you maybe they weren't so confident about what they were seeing out of Rashad Bateman. Who knows?
I feel like it'd be like not as confident out of Devin Duvernay.
They're
I don't
deep
think they'd worry about their wide receiver
they're
one.
deep threat. So, all right, fair enough. All right, my wide receiver sleeper candidate. I've mentioned him before, and it is Romeo Doubs, dude. This guy's a fucking dog. He's been making highlight clips at camp. He's been beating guys. Like, I saw one clip specifically that he beat a guy, and he was so pissed that Jordan Love didn't hit him. Because he was like, he had him by like 4 feet. And then he gets to the end of his route, he's like jumping up and down, like shaking his hands. He's like, bro, I'm open. And I'm sure a guy like Aaron Rodgers loves to see shit like that. Like, he's pissed. Like, I want the ball because I'm fucking open. And it seems like with Aaron Rodgers, the way he's complaining about his receivers right now, not a lot of those guys are open. But when it comes to Romeo Doubs, I've heard it's Dobbs. Like,
I've heard both pronunciations. I think like the PFF podcast started calling him Dobbs.
Because like I think he said at a press conference, it's like always been Dobbs, but like Dubs is cool too. Like, I mean, people have called me Dubs like in a college.
He's just confused by it.
So, but yeah, I mean, this guy's a fucking dog. A lot of criticism on Green Bay's wide receivers from Aaron Rodgers, but a clip from Aaron Rodgers on Romeo Doubs. Quote, every single day, there's been at least one wow play from Romeo Doubs. And that's rare for a young guy like that. We've had some guys over the years do that, but they are all in the top 10 of Packers receiving history. Good start for him. That is a really nice compliment from a guy who's won back-to-back MVP awards and is one of the best quarterbacks of all time, who has seen a few good receivers in his time.
It does bode well for him because it sounds like he might be getting attention of Rodgers once he gets onto the field.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mentioned it earlier with Lazard. It's the same concept here, dude. If I'm closing my eyes, putting the blindfold on, and taking shots in the dark at Green Bay wide receivers, have a smile on my face while doing it because one of these guys is gonna ball out. One of these guys is gonna have 1,000 yards.
I keep forgetting about Randall Cobb too. Cobb probably won't be a 1,000-yard guy, but he could be touchdown.
I think Randall Cobb's more there to show the guys like, hey, this is how Green Bay receivers are supposed to act.
Culture guy.
He's Aaron Rodgers wanting to bring him in so that he could teach the young guys.
Come on, that's a Kentucky legend, man. You got to support.
No, I do support. He's a great veteran in this league, but dude, come on now. I used to have a Randall Cobb jersey. I don't know where it is now, but he was a dog. But Romeo Doubs. I've got him at wide receiver 48.
Well, he was a cat, actually.
Yeah, you're right. See, a wild cat, not just one of them small cats. You know, don't play with me. But yeah, Romeo.
He's no house cat.
Romeo Doubs comes in at wide receiver 48 for me. He was a 4th round pick in this year's draft. Green Bay, a lot of success with later round draft picks. At the receiver position, they did draft Christian Watson, but he's missed most of training camp so far, so I don't have a lot of optimism there. I mean, Aaron Rodgers seems like he wants to get these rookies in, like playing Green Bay football immediately. I don't think that Christian Watson's going to see the ball for a whole year because training camp is so important, especially to a guy like Aaron Rodgers.
He seems like he'll be like MVS at best, like deep balls this first year.
Maybe.
That's about it.
Maybe. Possibly. But in college, Romeo Doubs went to Nevada, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. In his senior season, he had 80 catches, 1,100 yards, and 11 tuds. So he's got the college production. He's got the compliments from one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And he's got the clips. He's got the opportunity. I like it a lot. Especially go ahead and pick him up on waivers or make him a late-round draft pick in a 10-team league. I like my boy, Romeo Doubs.
Or even in Dynasty. Just buy in.
100%. All right. Well, that just about does it, man. That was a solid fucking episode, wrapping up around 2 hours. But I mentioned in the text group chat earlier, I was so horny to talk about football today, man. I have missed it so much.
It's just been bundling up. You've been head, knee, bottom, everything first into fantasy football. So you've been bottling it up.
And I just, it was fun to go through and see the differences in our fantasy rankings and talk about that. And we finally got to cover our talk about our power rankings as they're now out in full. So that was a good time. But fuck yeah, man.
I think right now the only one of ours I haven't seen is Jaden's, and that's probably pure strategy on his part.
I don't give a shit, dude. I don't give a shit. Like, I mean, it is what it is. Like,
he was so shocked that I took Debo in the second round, but I was like, dude, you've had my list. I had him as my number 5 receiver. He's the best receiver.
I was thinking about Debo at my spot, but he didn't. Obviously, you took him. So I because the ADP, he was gonna probably maybe drop to my spot, and I had him as a potential pick. But yeah, hell of an episode, dude. Ooh, nice voice crack to finish her out. But yeah, hell of an episode. We'll have another episode next week. We're gonna start coming out with the weeklies for sure, because football season is upon us, guys. We're in week 2 of preseason as we speak, and week 3 is coming up next week, and it's the last fucking week of preseason, dude. I'm excited.
Big time.
But
big time.
That's been it for the boys at the Blitz. For Mitchell McDonald and Kane Schwartz, we'll catch you next week, man. Appreciate it. Catch you later.